get real, child. Let's get real.
Hi, friends. You know, some people kind of say they want to do good things, but they really do very little and don't step forward. My guest today is a guy who really is out to fight evil in a strong way. And he heard about my program at an event we did to meet him here in Dallas. And I gave him my book. He read it fast and got back with me and said, "Man, this is a great program. What you need to do is call it the Green Real Deal as a way to make the world carbon negative." The name of my book is Get Real, a Positive Solution to Climate Change, which is a good topic. But this Green Real Deal mantra that he has is something we've used in marketing. And I hope you're going to stay tuned for the whole episode that we have coming up with Brandon Williams, who's an exciting, devout Christian business guy who's trying to make the world a better place by serving in Congress. So I'm so proud to have him as an aide. He's helping us get the word out on Capitol Hill by helping us distribute books and have events up there in DC. So he really is a great guy, and he needs your support and donations. He's in a tough district. The Democrats have redistricted him into a district that's even less favorable than the one he barely won in 22. So join me and stay tuned for a great interview. Well, friends, you know how people in Congress are. They're just jumping around doing all kinds of big things. And my guest today, Brandon Williams, is going to be with us by phone while he's driving from one vital task for America to another. And I'm so honored to have him here, and I'm really honored to know him, and looking forward to having a good conversation with him. Good to see you, Brandon.
David, good to see you. And I'm sorry I can't be on video, but I'm honored to be here with you. And I just got to say that you have been such a good friend. I would say that a lot of my views on the environment and the climate really came into focus in my very early discussions with you. I don't know of anybody that has been more influential on me and my thoughts about climate and energy than you have. So I'm honored to be here with you today.
You bet. Well, and you've been a huge help helping us spread the word through the rest of Congress by actually warehousing books at your DC office and just being a huge help. And I just want people in your voting district and across the country to know that this is the kind of guy we need in Congress, somebody who's been successful in private life. He's not an attorney trying to make a sweetheart deal and have a luxury lobbying career. He wants to get back out to New York after his term of office is done, hopefully in many years. We need a guy like Brandon fighting for my Get Real about climate, or what he calls so wisely the Green Real Deal, which is a way to make the world carbon negative while we still use oil and gas. That's right, friends. We don't need to give up modern life. We don't need to give up gasoline cars. We need to treat the earth with respect. Brandon read my book, loved it, took time out of his busy schedule to spend a ton of time talking about it. And it's just been a super advocate for us. And I really hope he has a long career in Congress. And I hope that if you're in his district, that you vote for him. And if you're not in his district, that you give money to his campaign. Because, friends, the Democrats in Albany are doing their best to defeat guys like Brandon by shaping his district in a bad way. Isn't that right, Brandon?
That's right. I was really nationally the only Republican adversely affected by gerrymandering. And that was in New York State. But we can still fight and win. I signed up for a hard fight. I'm in a hard fight. And frankly, it's the only way I'd have it. But it is literally rated today the #1 most competitive district in the nation for an incumbent Republican. So to keep the majority, we got to keep this seat. And I'm here to fight.
I know you are. And as a former military guy, Navy officer, and just a great family guy, I just really encourage everybody who hears this, and I'm going to share this widely. And I hope that if you're listening to GetRealTV.com and hearing this on the channel, that you'll share our channel, because friends, my favorite quote is Edmund Burke saying, all that's needed for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And Brandon Williams is doing something to fight for freedom, to fight for reasonable living, and a return to a better time. Frankly, friends, there's so much darkness and badness in the world. And I know he's frustrated that the Republicans haven't been able to stand stronger and have been kind of divided. And what do you think about some of this kind of bipartisan big bill writing that I think is really a bad thing? Don't you kind of regret that the Republicans haven't been able to stand stronger together?
Just to go back to your Edmund Burke quote, I actually used that in committee yesterday, confronting the chancellor of the New York City public schools in a committee hearing, and used that exact phrase that you just described, because in New York City public schools, they have anti-Semitism running wild, and they don't have the leadership to stand up for the moral clarity that's required in these times. And so I just want to echo your words that we have to stand up against evil. I am brand new to politics, David, and you were very gracious to hear me out and support me in the very beginning. And, who knew that we would end up in this place? And so what I have found going to DC and being immersed in the political, frankly, world for the very first time is just how discouraging it is for people that love this country. And I'll be honest with you, there are forces on both sides of the aisle that, frankly, I think are working for themselves and are not working for the American people. The dysfunction in Congress is so big, and it's going to take a long time to turn around. I can't tell you how much I believe in and trust Speaker Mike Johnson to actually be the have his hand on the till to turn this giant battleship around. And so it may not time that there's these big bills, which the omnibus, you're exactly right there, the problem. That's where all this spending gets pushed through. And we have to fight against that. But it is it's going to take a long time to turn it around. It's not going to happen in a day or a week or one session in Congress. It's going to take multiple years. And I know it's discouraging, but I think we're on the right track. And I think Speaker Johnson will get us there.
Well, I think it takes a longer time in power to kind of convince the deep state that the GOP is for real. So I hope everybody is not getting discouraged by the fact that I'm officially kind of nonpartisan with my climate program, and I vote for the least bad, and I support the best person I can find to help represent my views in Congress, whether they're in my district or other districts. Like Brandon is not in my district, but Brandon is representing me just like he represents all the people of America. He's not somebody who just thinks, what can I do for my district as his only focus. He's focusing on the whole country because he's a true patriot. Love your comment about sharing the quote. What else is going on that you want to share in our short time we have together?
David, I want to stay on energy and climate because I know that is near and dear to your heart. I'm the only nuclear engineer in Congress. I was at the COP28 climate conference, UN climate conference in Dubai back in December. And that is very famously called the nuclear COP. I just want to, to talk about what I see. I talk about progressive fantasies. The progressives have these policies. By the way, it's about the crime. It's about crime. It's about the border. And it's certainly about climate that just aren't based in reality. We can't afford to run our country based on fallacies, on fantasies of the progressive left. And, the climate policies that are impoverishing working class Americans and making us energy dependent and energy poor instead of energy independent and energy strong and rich and abundant, is really one of the key things that we have to fight. Inflation is being driven by these kinds of policies, particularly the energy policies. And we have to take care of the environment, but we're going to do that, like you said, with continued use of fossil fuels. But my advocacy has been to go all in on nuclear because it's the kind of base load that we need. And using the principles of your book, I also advocate for, policies that allow us to grow, to grow more, to absorb the CO2 that's the environment, put it back in the soil where it does some good, and use nature and partner with nature instead of all of these, frankly, anti-capitalist, anti-American principles that come out of the progressive left. I'm sorry to squeeze so much into that, but I'm just passionate about it.
Well, I love your passion, and, increasing photosynthesis is the answer to the climate issue. Carbon is in a cycle constantly between being emitted in the air and pulled out of the air by photosynthesis. And frankly, everybody that reads my book realizes very quickly that photosynthesis is sharply reduced by the lack of soil minerals. So I really appreciate that you're focused on that. And we just got to keep getting the word out. And we've got to get the word out that you may be in one of the toughest races, but you're one of the guys that really needs to come back to Washington to give us a chance to fight the climate left and fight the left on these other issues where they're just flat out irrational. That's why I call my program Get Real, because we got to get real, friends. We got to get rational, and we need to do everything we can to get Brandon Williams in Congress for another session so he can keep fighting for rational climate policy and just common sense policy in general. Isn't that right, Brandon?
That's exactly right. It's I like your phrase, get real, because what the left does is it preys on the complexity of our modern world. This is political complexity, it's technological complexity, and they rely on that to confuse people about cause and solutions. And, as you know, I'm trained by the nuclear Navy. If anybody knows folks from Admiral Rickover's culture, it's a very rigid, fact-based, science-based, high accountability kind of environment, which of course is what you want running a nuclear submarine. And that's the kind of principle I want to bring and do bring to the conversations in Congress. These are complex issues. I'm not deterred by complexity, but we have to have common sense solutions that are based in reality. Back to your phrase of get real, and there's just not that many people that are committed to it. They're committed to they call it AstroTurf. Just putting a little greenwash on things and pretending like it's going to address the underlying issues when in fact they're not, and they're making things worse. I see that in New York State. Believe it or not, New York State has gone all in on wind and solar. Now, if you listen to the physicist in the National Renewable Energy Labs, part of the Department of Energy laboratory system, they'll tell you that where I live in New York is actually the worst place in America to put solar panels. But that doesn't prevent the leadership in New York State of doing that. They're doing it because they think it's good politics, even though it's bad science. And because of that, New York State actually is emitting more emissions, more carbon emissions, more CO2 today than they were 10 years ago, precisely because they have turned so much to wind and solar. They've shut down prematurely a nuclear power plant in New York State in the Hudson Valley. And they're having to burn more coal and import energy from other states that still have coal-fired power plants, as well as gas-fired power plants. And that's the kind of greenwashing that we've seen. And it's just bad policy. It's just bad policy. But this is what the left does. They don't really want to solve the problems. It's all about messaging. And frankly, with my technical background, I think I'm able to see through that, message through that, and start, communicating to the American people that, yes, we want to be good stewards of the environment. It's a complex issue, and we're going to need, frankly, a lot of smart folks to fix it, and not this progressive fantasies that so dominate our policy right now.
That is so wise, Brandon. And I hope everybody that's listened to this interview just realizes how important it is that Brandon go back to Congress, because he's exactly the kind of guy we need in office. Frankly, we need a lot more of them. So if you're kind of sitting on the sideline saying, well, the GOP didn't do that much, friends, they've been hammered. They've been corrupted. There are GOP representatives who aren't near as clear-headed and committed as Brandon is. So support the ones that are really solid. Let's keep this majority. Like I say, I'm nonpartisan officially, but frankly, I vote for what's least harmful, and what the left is proposing will destroy America as we know it, as they remove reliable electricity. I've got inventions to make the world carbon negative, and we can do it quickly, so there's no need to cut emissions. We need to increase photosynthesis, treat the earth with respect. Hope everybody will go and get my book. There's a link to it available on Get Roll TV or Get Roll Alliance. And thank you so much, Brandon, for being with us today, and best wishes in your campaign. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Yeah, come visit my website at letsvotebrandon.com. Not Let's Go Brandon, but letsvotebrandon.com. And you can support my campaign there. David, thank you so much. I'm so, frankly, just so pleased to be partnering with you. Thank you.
You bet.